conversation this evening is a think-in. And some of you have been to one of those before, and some of you may not have done that before. But the idea of a think-in is that everybody gets to join in a bit. So sometimes with Tortoise Lates, it's a bit more of a sit back in the dark and enjoy it kind of thing. And with this one, I really want to hear stories and what have you from you. There are cameras, but don't be scared. They're only filming us. So anything you say in the room won't suddenly appear on YouTube and go viral and shame you and your life will be destroyed. Nothing from that side of the room will make its way onto the internet, I promise. So please do be honest, because we're going to talk about relationships. We might even talk about if I can bear it, which I may or may not be able to. The question is, do we expect too much from love? So let's just get a bit of a sense. I want to know who's in the room. If you feel comfortable, you don't have to, put your hand up if you would currently describe yourself as married. Okay, I think that's it, yes. Yeah. It's good that both Josh and Devorah have both got their hands up because they are literally married and here to talk about it. Okay, if you would currently describe yourself as single, put your hand up, whatever that might mean to you. Okay.
Oh, 2 hands up.
You're doubly single.
Noted, Rose. And if you would describe yourself as something other than married or single, put your hand up.
Wow.
That's good. That's my partner there's got her hand up, so that's good. We agree. Excellent. Okay, that's good. Because it's quite hard. I thought, how am I going to ask these questions? Because I can't say, it needs to be a sex relationship because some people are married and they don't have sex anymore. So I'm good that we've got some sense of who's currently using a dating app. Not currently, literally now. I mean, you could be now, but it's listed on one. Okay, interesting. So our question is, do we expect too much from love? And I'm interested to know, maybe I'll ask you to start with. Mm-hmm. Do you think that your expectations of love are unrealistically high?
So I'll go first. Probably, yeah, I think so. So when I think about my last relationship and I think about everything that happened from the beginning to the end, I think in the beginning, I didn't understand what my needs were. And I expected her to understand them, even though I didn't understand them, and also fulfill them at the same time. So that was unrealistic. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So I was in a relationship where we both loved each other. However, I didn't know what I wanted, and I wanted everything without communicating that I wanted it. Yeah. So, yeah.
Maybe. Yeah. Go on, Nana, what do you think?
I think we do place too many expectations on our partners, and I do think it's unrealistic. That's why I'm single at the moment, because it's a lot to expect all these things from one person. I do think we're living in a society also that is quite individualistic. Okay. And we're more thinking about ourselves, thinking about our needs, and we're a bit more selfish these days, I think. But I definitely think that, the expectations might be a bit too high. And I felt that the expectations from my partner, for me, was too high. Hence, singleness.
Interesting. So you couldn't give.
I couldn't give. Yeah. My favourite line is, "I don't have capacity."
Mm-hmm. I hear you. Now, Devorah, you and Josh, there was some discussion downstairs as to how long you have been married. In the region of 13 years is what we'll go with broadly.
Yeah.
Sort of thing. Roughly. We'll talk about what sort of marriage is as a particular formulation of a love relationship. But when you got married, because you've now got kids, the love is different now or the same?
I can't remember. I think love is very realistic. I think love is really interested in reality, actually. I think it's one of the main ways in which we think about reality and try to understand what it is. And so I think we never really trust a kind of romance or a love that doesn't sound real and doesn't sound like it could work in reality. so it's very interesting because I think when I first met Josh, I had never disliked anyone as much, and so I saw that here was something to work with. I think
it's quite a classic romantic
it's
novel
quite
setup, right?
It's like, oh, I hate you so much. Well, this is interesting. So everything you stand for, I stand against, and everything you say is abhorrent to me. So
okay, Josh.
So I think probably that was a kind of reality principle. Where I felt I had something to learn from this, and that I would sort of get to know more about life this way. And so I think probably we've been figuring stuff out. I think maybe we are better at love now. Sex is another thing.
Yeah. We'll come on to that. Devorah, you've made a movie. It's a full proper film. You can see it on the Curzon cinema app. You can get it on your telly, which is about you and Josh. Why? But it really is. And why did you do that?
It's an excellent question, and I don't have an honest answer to it because I've tried answering it a few times and I always feel like I'm lying. So I obviously don't know the answer, but I think it's well. Here's the philosophical answer, which is that when you get married, which I suggest down this, when you get married, it's a weird thing, marriage, because you stand in front of a bunch of people who are your witnesses. And then you perform this thing, and then somebody stands there and says, you were that, you're now this, and everybody goes, yes, we saw that, that's definitely just happened. And so it's a weird magical thing happens where everybody suspends their disbelief and pretends you just changed in front of them. And so this weird performance that marriage sort of begins at. And then there's this question afterwards, well, so how do we continue to perform this? And marriage is odd. It's sort of every now and then it needs to exhibit itself to the world. And it can sort of retire into a kind of privacy, and then it goes out and it's an exhibition. So I think to some extent we're just taking that to the logical conclusion and making films about our marriage so that everybody can continue to consent to us being married, and we know it's still going. But I think the truth is, a sort of weird thing is you marry a person's compulsion. You don't really marry a person's intentions or their noble instincts. You marry their compulsions. You marry the things that they can't help doing. And Josh can't help picking up a camera and filming everything. And I found that an easier life for me is if I just accept that. And if he says I have to reenact the argument I just had with him, I do. So you did do that. You did do the argument again, but better for the camera. Did you do that? I think it's quite. I find the first argument that I have with him is quite painful and guilt-ridden. I think, oh no, it's so tragic. We're arguing, and then he says, "That was quite good. Let's do that again for the camera." And then I seem like to have carte blanche to feel the animosity I feel. So it seems to work for us. I don't know if you want to try it.
It's amazing. You two, obviously, currently single, not married, never been married.
Nope.
Is marriage a thing that you think about or would want? Because you're so young, both of you. So.
Oh, thank you.
Yes. You are.
It's not something. It's not the be all and end all.
Yeah.
I think if I found a person, it's a feeling. If I felt that feeling that I wanted to be married to someone, I would go for that.
Yeah. So you do believe in the fairy tale. You believe that there could be a person.
Yes.
Always be in you forever until we die. What about you, Ray?
Yeah, I don't know about that. I don't know. Like sometimes I've kind of thought about like monogamy, if it's like realistic and stuff like that. So I'm not sure.
But you talk about that in the podcast too.
Yeah. We did speak about that in the podcast, and you've got some trouble speaking about that.
Did you?
Yeah. Go on. I want to know for you. Does it change? Like, and how so? Because I know in the beginning it's kind of like honeymoon stage and it's fun and you're having sex every day, and then like 20 years later it kind of dwindles, and I'm always chasing after that beginning stage.
Yeah, that's
And I think that's what my problem is.
The beginning stage is fun, but it's not for us. It was a kind of not a honeymoon stage. It was a kind of nightmare stage, but there was sex every day.
But that's fun.
But you do all the arguments twice for fun. So
but now we're in the honeymoon stage. There's less sex, but we'd like more. I think it would be. I think the truth is for me, my hero, for me, my marital hero is Sherazad. You know, Sherazad of 1001 Nights. So it's this great epic of Arab literature, which is this King Shahryar. You know, he doesn't want any wife to cheat on him because his first wife cheated on him. So he's figured out a plan. He'll marry a new one every day and then behead her the following morning. And that way, he'll take her virginity and then he'll start a new one each day. And this is an excellent plan because no one will ever cheat on him. And you know, he gets to keep it new and interesting, new wives all the time. But then he meets Sherazad, and Sherazad she knows what she's getting into, but she becomes this amazing storyteller. So she just at night just suddenly starts telling a really good story, and then she says, "Oh, it's getting very late. I'll have to finish it tomorrow." And then he's like so excited he can't behead her in the morning. He has to wait the next night. It could be 1001 nights, or whatever that means. And over the course of that time, she's telling stories a lot about adulterous. She's telling stories that aren't monogamous, really. They're very, but over that time, he's being seduced into monogamy, and he's being seduced into the idea that if he wants variability and change, actually a new person every night isn't going to give it to him. The same person will intrigue him in a certain way, and so he develops an appetite for the risk that somebody might cheat on you, for the risk that you can't have a dead certainty as a spouse, and so she's my hero because in most of Western literature, the marriage plot ends with the wedding and then we have a happy ever after. But in this, all the excitement happens after the marriage, and it's very exciting, and it's it's risky, but I like that story.
It is definitely risky for the wives that went before. But Rose, you were about to say you got into trouble when you did the stuff about ethical non-monogamy.
Yeah, because we were in relationships then, and they were not for that. So yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, they were very
yeah. But that's a bit. So you were talking about the developing an appetite for the risk of potentially being betrayed, but you take a risk every time on the podcast because you do talk about things that I might not say on a podcast. I might say tonight, but I won't say on a podcast. So what, like, and your partners when there are partners, that's a difficult thing, right?
Yeah. Do you know what? I think we were lucky that our partners understood because we had this podcast before we got into those relationships. So they enjoyed our content. So why would they want us to change the content when we got into relationships? People that I've dated recently, they don't understand. So maybe they're not for me because they don't understand. And sometimes they might find offense in some things that I say, but these are my personal experiences. And I am doing a podcast with my best friend, and it's a safe space for me to express and just be transparent about all these things. So yeah, but it does cause issues. So like our latest episode was going viral on TikTok, and we're talking about tribbing, and my auntie commented and was like, "Oh, nothing to see here." Like, and we're describing what tribbing actually means in it. So she's that's my mum's sister. Like, it was embarrassing.
It was helpful for me to know because I didn't know the term.
Okay, yeah, thanks.
Learning something. But what about, like you say, your mum and dad? Are they horrified?
Luckily, my mum doesn't know what like the podcast is. When I'm going out to record, I say, I'm going out to record my podcast. It's like radio, but not radio. That's the easiest way I could explain it. But sometimes she's just like, oh, let me see, send me the YouTube videos. I'm just like, no. But yeah, everything I do is kind of like risky. So I made a film 2 years ago, and there's a sex scene I shot in my house, and she's like, oh, I really want to see this film because I made her leave the house for 2 days so I could shoot the film. And she's like, I really want to see this film, and I'm just like, yeah, it's coming. Yeah, I'm gonna. She's never gonna see it. She's never gonna see it.
No, sir. No. I don't think she'd have much luck downloading the Curzon app as well. To be fair,
no, I don't think she'll see my film either.
This sort of environment of you two, your best mates, you talk about everything and anything.
Yes.
And it feels, when you listen to it, what's so nice about it is that it feels like you almost, we're not there. Like I could just be sitting behind you in the pub and you'd be having that chat. But is it, or is it a bit more crafted than that?
Yeah, so none of our podcasts are actually produced. We just come and sit down and start talking. And but this is what we
do you not
talk
cut
about.
stuff out even?
Not really.
Maybe names.
Maybe names,
Right.
Names, or if we get really shady, then it has to go.
And it gets really shady.
Yeah, I love shade. So, but these are conversations we used to have on the way home from like a night out and stuff like that. We'll just stand in the alleyway because we live about 5 minutes from each other, but there's like an alleyway that separates which way we go home. So it's 3 o'clock in the morning. We need to separate, but we're standing there talking for 30 minutes about things like this. Yeah. So this is literally what we talk about anyway all the time in our group chat, like in our WhatsApp chat. Yeah. But
sometimes I do forget that we're recording, that there's a mic on, and that's why we overshare, because I totally, I forget. And then people be like, "Oh my god, you said this," or "Oh, we've got the proof because we've got the previews that we put online," and it's a bit horrifying sometimes. But
do you cringe?
A little bit.
This one, that clip. So we were just both newly single in that clip.
Yeah.
So our exes didn't know what we were up to, but they found out what we were up to because of these clips.
Yeah.
And it was kind of like we're sharing, but we keep in mind that our exes are going to see this, and also we were both in quite public relationships. So the hashtag ads on Instagram, all that stuff, and all these campaigns. So like my picture is in Heathrow Airport for 5 years with my ex. We got 3 more years to go, whatever.
Welcome home.
Yeah, so exactly.
Departure and arrival.
Yeah, so it is, isn't it? Yeah, have putting our business out there and saying we're dating other people, they're going to be impacted by that, because it's like, okay, people know that we're not together now.
Do you have a sense that in your wider friendship group, the people you hang out with, because obviously you're queer and you're young relative to, I'm an old lesbian and you're a medium-aged straight person. Do you think expectations do you think your expectations are different? I grew up absolutely assuming, not even questioning, that I would be married one day.
Yeah.
Which is one of the reasons why I didn't come out until I was much, much older.
Yeah.
But do you think in general it sort of looms in the distance that people will start pairing off and then that'll be it?
Yeah, we've been thinking about it lately, actually. we've been questioning, are we not serious? Are we not serious people?
Yeah, we just feel like, are we not serious? Do we just want to be in the club until we're like 60? I don't know. Like we're questioning it because people around us are getting married, especially like more so straight people. Yeah. But every time, go on Instagram, someone's getting married, and it's just like, oh my god, are we gonna get married?
Are we gonna do that?
Are we? I don't know.
But then also, I think in general, we don't see that many queer people getting married anyway. Yeah. Like we don't have any queer married friends.
No.
I've never been to a queer wedding before. So Lady Phil, who's the owner of UK Black Pride, she always says you cannot be what you cannot see. And we're 2 Black queer women who never been to a Black queer wedding or any queer wedding for that matter. So it's almost, sometimes it feels like, is it even realistic for us? Are we going to get there? But I do hope so.
I do want to get married.
I want to look good at a wedding. So,
I think there's definitely something about the status. Were you conscious of that when you got married, that there was a sort of status change socially?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, it's a very mysterious thing that I think it. Yeah. Maybe I won't answer that question.
Sure thing.
Maybe Josh will answer.
Josh,
you're good on this. This is one of your questions.
Oh.
You felt differently.
I felt differently.
Yeah.
I did. I resisted marriage with everything I had. I mean, my parents' marriage didn't work out, and I thought I don't want to turn out like my dad. That's going to be tricky, And then what's the point of marriage? I had cynical, etc. And she was kind of like for it. So I was like, okay, so on. And then really, I got to the bit just before you're married, and people are there. A lot of them, money has been spent. I'm thinking, what the fuck? I mean, she's nice, but really, how did this happen to me? I'm a renegade. I'm like, I do whatever I want. Fuck them, etc. Right? And then I got there, and then it was the marrying bit and the ritual, the thing, and all these people are staring at me, grinning. And my parents too much, chuppah, religious wedding, everything, right? And then it was awful. I was like, I hate this. And then it was over, and I was suddenly jubilant and transformed by the ritual. And it was totally weird. Like, you don't know what you don't know. I thought I knew, and I was wrong. I didn't know shit. And I was transformed by, I think I was a candidate. I was a clear candidate for religious magical powers. And I was jubilant. I was like, yeah, I'm married. This is the best. And we can try, yeah. And then I was just, I don't know, it can do something. I'm just putting that out there.
And you've kind of been a bit the butt of the jokes in the movie. But it's also, and you are like it downstairs, and I have a sense of that this is sort of, it's not that much of an exaggeration, the person we see on the screen.
No.
But are you a planner aheader person? Can you think far into the future?
Very far, but unrealistically. Yeah. Right. I have all kinds of fantasies, but none of them will ever come to light. So that's just madness.
So when you described the feeling of being changed at your wedding day, it really was a surprise. You didn't anticipate that. It wasn't
a surprise. I didn't know what I was going in for. Why was I even doing this? Didn't know what I was doing. Blah blah blah. Suddenly it was like, oh, this is great. Now everyone loves me.
So why did you do it then?
I don't know. To please Devorah, maybe.
To please.
I had some notion
to please my parents.
I did have a little notion. There was mostly it was to please, but I did this notion that maybe that you're going into an unknown thing, and maybe you don't know as much as you think you do. I have that much wisdom. It's only a tiny bit, but it was enough to change. If you have 1% wisdom, you might get some change. I got some change.
Can I say so? Can I? This is maybe to. I don't want to say lower the tone, like to higher the tone too much. But to introduce a philosophical idea, which is a philosopher, Emmanuel Levinas, who I like. He says that the secret of angels is that they're very different to philosophers. Philosophers, very naturally, because they're rational, think about everything and then decide what to do, because you have to think and know what your choices are, and then you make a decision. And he says, angels are the opposite. They say yes first to whatever's offered, and then they find out what it was, and they think about it afterwards. And he says because the thing with philosophers is ultimately they can't make a decision about anything, because there's just a lot of possibilities out there. It's very hard to be decisive. It's a kind of a moment of madness. It's a kind of, but actually there are some things you can only know by doing it. And when you do it, you find out what it is. And in finding out what it is, you find out that it's a sort of that you're making it up as you go along, and you're changing it. It isn't actually. So it's a very creative move.
Are you saying I'm an angel?
I'm saying you did something. I'm saying we imitated angels at that moment, and we could do that again sometime.
Yeah. The leap into divorce. Yeah.
Oh no. I'm just saying, but actually, marriage is a very interesting radical act that is sort of flies in the face of rationality, and that's what's so radical about it. So it seems like a staid and conservative. It's got all kinds of problems and all kinds of baggage. I'm not denying it, but it's also obviously a very radical thing to do. It's so weird. You meet somebody, you don't know them, and you marry them. And you're like, that's so weird to do that.
Yeah. I think that's the thing I do battle with is there's so many problems with it. And I think because it's become such it's like the wallpaper you don't notice anymore in your house. It's just there from the very beginning, and all of the visuals and the dreams. I mean, I'm speaking as someone who, since coming out and divorcing my husband, still will sit and do 5 hours straight of Say Yes to the Dress. It's hard to shake that off, that sort of dream. That dream is hard to get rid of, and I worry. Oh my God, it's on the chair. I'm so sorry. I worry that it is more harmful than it is. I like your thesis. It's a radical act of hope and possibility, but I'm not sure it is that actually. It wasn't that for me anyway.
Because in my last relationship, I was talking about marriage. I was talking about marriage, talking about kids. And then one day I woke up and I was terrified. And I was just like, maybe I'm not sure this is coming too quickly, because there's lots of plans and thinking, okay, we're going to do this in 2 years and we're going to have kids in 3 years. And then one day I woke up and I was scared. And it was, maybe fear of the unknown. It was probably I was asking myself, am I capable of choosing someone every day and not choosing myself, because I feel like when you're with someone, it's not just about you, you have to compromise, you have to, work on things. And
you don't have the capacity.
I don't have the capacity. But I love what you said, and I feel like sometimes you just need to make that just jump, like Josh. It's gonna be beautiful.
I'm cross about the fact that the bureaucracy of real life in this country rewards marriage. I'm cross about it because I feel like what has that got to? It's the most unromantic thing in the world, the tax system. There's nothing less sexy than tax. James Harding would disagree, but he isn't here. But I just think that why would it be so baked in?
Yeah, I think when I was this relationship we keep talking about. When I was in this relationship, when we did think about marriage, we did think about it as it's going to be our way, our own rules. And because she was from Sierra Leone, I'm Ghanaian, and within the Ghanaian culture, marriage is a huge thing. Wedding lasts 3 days, and but all the roles around it are centered around gender. And obviously, there was no man in our relationship. Yeah. So it was like, how are we gonna bring our culture into these weddings and actually have the blessings our culture should say we should have through these customs at a wedding? And we just thought, oh, fuck it. Like, it's just make our own rules. So I think now, going forward, marriage and weddings will always look different compared to who, depending on who I'm actually with. I don't have the suit that I'm going to wear or whatever. I do plan to not wear shoes at my wedding whenever I get married, but I don't have any dreams of what would happen at my wedding because it just depends on who I'm going to be with at the time. And also, I'm just looking forward to creating my own norms around that. So when we think about marriage, maybe what marriage is to everyone is not what it's going to be to me. Maybe it won't be a ceremony. Maybe it's going to be, we just go and get matching tattoos. But it's okay to still call that marriage, I think, depending on what you want, basically. Yeah.
That's interesting. Well, look, we were here to try and talk about, do we expect too much from love? And I've heard some really genuinely interesting things that I didn't think I would hear. I wondered if we might encounter this slight generational hypothesis where there's just a sort of your exposure to thinking about yourself, looking after yourself, understanding the relationship between your emotional well-being and your body and all of that, it just didn't exist when I was growing up. It was totally... Really?
Yeah, totally.
Go on, Paul. What did you have all access to all that shit?
Yeah, absolutely, emphatically. I mean, I lost my virginity very young, but we didn't know that at the time. So it was only when I sort of came to London, people said, "Oh, I didn't lose my virginity at 21." I was like, we were having children and being married by then. So we had a group dynamic. We were incredibly open about what was going on. We were very honest about each other. We were very responsible. You know, my girlfriend was 13 when she went on the pill. Wow. And, you know, we went together out to the doctor, explain what was going on. So, yeah, I don't think it's necessarily a generational thing. I think it's often the environment you find yourself.
Maybe that's it.
And I think that's true for younger generation. It is. I mean, I was fascinated by Rai Ling. So I was hoping my younger friend would turn up tonight, but she's not.
I haven't seen it yet. Have you seen it? Have you seen it?
So, yeah, I have.
No, I haven't seen it. No spoilers.
So no spoilers. But it is interesting that it's kind of, the director didn't see it as a rom-com. The audience do, and the critics do. But there's a lot that goes on in that space that you kind of go in, that would not be considered romantic 15 years ago. That wouldn't be funny 20 years ago. And I think there is a huge dynamic where there's a disconnect between how we engage with each other, because we don't do what we used to do. We don't speak to each other anymore. We go da 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 da.
Oh my God, we were talking about this yesterday. We were talking about that yesterday because we were saying how a lot of people have conversations via text and WhatsApp, and tone is often missing when you do that, and it just causes a lot of conflict, a lot of arguments that are so unnecessary. Like, if you just met up and heard each other's voices and felt each other's energies, it probably wouldn't be so heightened. So yeah, we were literally talking about that yesterday. Like, it's just we need to get off the socials more.
Well, we are 30 seconds over time, which I think is not bad. So I'm getting thumbs up from Connor. Thank you very much to the very brilliant Nana and Rose, and to the very fabulous Josh down there. Poor old Josh. And to Devorah as well.
Thanks for watching that video. If you enjoyed that, we think you'll love these. And if you want to join us for the next live recording of Tortoise Lates, head to tortoisemedia.com/book.